Hello, here on Pixalf Studios. And today we're going to break down Twitter and Threads logo animation. Let's take a look. So, let's get started. For this animation, two logos were used, the Twitter logo and the Threads logo. First, we prepared them in Adobe Illustrator and broke them down into layers. This is necessary so that during animation we can control different elements individually. We did the same with the Threads logo. Let's look at the main elements of the animation and dissect their structure. First, we animated the Twitter logo. As we know, hummingbirds are very small birds and their wing movements are very fast. This is exactly what we had to replicate in the animation. Here, we set anchor points for the layers in necessary places so that the pivot point was in the right place, same with the wings. The wings were animated using the rotation parameter with a slight offset to make the movements non-standard and interesting. We also turned on the motion blur parameter here. Try not to use this parameter if not necessary, as motion blur makes the animation dirty and blurry. But in this case it was appropriate. Here the rotation animation was created with a 3-frame interval. With the page down key we can move frame by frame forward or backward and do this animation. Then with the Alt key we can compress the animation or stretch it depending on the situation and the task. Also, the graph editor is used to create a smooth, organic animation. It's called using this button or using the keyboard shortcut Shift plus F3. Here we can control the speed of the layer using curves. This is called speed graph. Also, to create more interesting motion, we created an offset with rotation keys. Also with the rotation parameter we used elastic expression. It's located in the Motion Tools panel from Motion Design School. It's a free script. We can apply elastic expression to different parameters. Also, for the interaction between the Twitter and Threads logos, we created this line that grows and grabs the bird by the neck. To align it with the Threads logo, we used part of the Threads logo and attached that line to the logo. For clarity, we can increase the size of the composition in width, so that part of the Threads logo is visible. This is roughly what it looks like. To create the appearance of the line itself, we use trim path. At the moment the line catches the bird, you can see that the line is sort of around the head of that bird. This is done with masks. If you don't do that, the mask will be on top of the bird, not around the head. These masks were drawn frame by frame. This line has one more mask. If you turn it off, it looks like this. We also used anticipation to animate this line. It's one of the 12 principles of Disney animation. Anticipation. It's implemented using the path parameter. It also uses one more Disney principle, so-called overlapping action, for more realistic animation. It's also implemented using elastic expression. It's implemented using the expression built into After Effects. We can choose any shape path, go into Window, and select the option. Create null from path, and select the appropriate option. This null script creates objects that we can manage individually. and set different motion parameters. To control and manipulate the animation elements, a regular null object is used, which we can animate at will. At the moment of collision, the thread's logo takes its final shape, and motion morphing is used at this point. Also, to animate the two lines of the thread's logo, we used alpha matte. It's drawing this shape, and the trim path parameter is animated. Here we've divided the logo into two separate parts, so that we can control them individually. The extra movement of the bottom of the thread's logo is created using the bendio effect, but the standard bended effect will work here as well. The additional movement for the second part of the logo is created using the same principle. Also here we've added a little gradient using masks that go like a glare across the logo. To create the impact of catching the bird, we created additional elements. Feathers that fly apart after the impact. Each of their movements is animated using the standard position, scale, and rotation modifiers. This is how the graph editor looks like in each of them. You can also see that some of the feathers at the highest point continue their movement and don't stop completely. This is realized with the graph editor. Also, the key speed can be fixed at one position on the input and output with this parameter here. Also, we've added feathers to the back of the animation here. We've also added a little detail like this here. Lines like this are often used in animation to give impact to the action. They're also created quite simply using the trim path parameter. The speed graph here looks like this, with a little offset at each of the keys. And also animated the line thickness so that the line itself disappears more smoothly. During the collision of the Twitter logo and threads, elements like this have been created. This kind of animation is called motion morphing. Even if the shapes don't look alike using motion, we can hide that moment to the viewer and it will appear to be the same element. Also added a pair of feathers to the background of the animation, so that the movement of each feather is concise and natural. This animation is created with these arches. It's used on each of the feathers. These arches are created in a simple way, creating any shape. Put the keys by position and make a motion like this. Now using the Ctrl and Alt keys, pull any leaf. Now if we pull on a curve, we can individually change each one and make arches like this. The final elements of this animation are added using Trapcode's particular effect. These are the little feathers that appear after the impact. Let's see what parameters were used here. Emitter is set to point. We're also animating the particular parameter per second here so that now they appear indefinitely. Also animating the position parameter so that the motion of these particles is from left to right along the motion of this animation. The particle type is set to sprite. Sprite we create with an additional layer feather PT. It is created very simply. The size of the composition is small, not exceeding 500 pixels, but it should be square to keep the aspect ratio. The elements used here are the same, it's part of the Twitter logo feathers. We also changed the particular physics parameters for more realistic particle movement. And also used the size over live parameter to make the particles smoothly disappear from the screen. For such an organic and slightly chaotic movement, we used turbulence parameter in the Displays tab. And that's basically all the elements that are used in the animation. It's important to remember that the most important thing in logo animation is the idea. And the technical side is already in the background. But often it is painstaking to each key of animation, and adding small insignificant details can make the animation with a twist, make it special. Once all the animation was complete, we did a pre-render and adjusted the speed with time remap where needed. And added all the necessary sounds. Also, to emphasize the movement of certain parts of the animation, we used the sapphire shake effect to give a little shake at key moments. In the end, we got this animation. Thanks for watching and see you soon.